Welcome, everybody, to another minute of the Nashville Pagan Pride Day. I'm glad all of you are teleporting in and coming across the country to listen to it on both the Zoom room. And if you want to find the Zoom room, go to paganworld.ning.com, put it onto the schedule, and you can join us inside the Zoom rooms or on the many different channels that we're being on. If you are watching it on a channel, feel free to share it onto your network and make it so that everybody can enjoy this. Today, and then this class is with Tish Owen and spells and how to create them, author of Spelling It Correctly. So spell it correctly. And then you can find that out and she'll talk more about that book, but we want to go ahead and let you guys go ahead and enjoy. We're handing this over to Tish, who does so many things, but we're not going to do it because you want to hear from her, not me.
Well, thanks, Ed. Did you just go away? All right. So, oh, you did. Hang on a minute. Let's see. I'm going to hit view so I can see other people. Okay, there we go. All right. So, hi, welcome to a class with Pagan Pride. I'm excited to be here. And I'm actually not here. I'm actually in Memphis. I had to hook up a Wi-Fi hotspot. And in order to do this, I pulled out my computer and realized I did not bring my charging cord. It is on my dining room table at my house. So, but I think I have enough juice to do this class. So we're going to talk about spells, and there's so many. We're inundated right now with all these books and all these TikToks and all these blogs about spells and about witchcraft and people who are dabbling and baby witches, which I do not like the term baby witches. I think it's insulting. Everybody has to start somewhere. And we talk about spells and what works and herbs and all the rest of it. But I would like to say if you're just starting, or even if you're not, because there's, like I said, there's so much out there that we're hearing, like Simon & Schuster. I just got an email from Simon & Schuster about a witch kit for baby witches. So, but I don't know that anybody is talking about how to prepare for doing a spell. And when you do a spell, it's just like doing a ritual, or just like when you meditate. And frequently, because you're putting out energy, drawing in energy, you might attract some unsavory characters. So I suggest that we start with, what are we going to do before we do our spell? Okay. And so I got first of all, I have this adorable little box. It's my travel altar. It has little drawers in it. One of my students gave me this, Kat gave me this, and it's adorable. It's all like hand carved. I just love it. But it's got a place for, I wish I could do this where you could see. Like, it's got a place where I put my rocks. And then it's got another drawer that is full of sage and Palo Santo. And then it has this big cabinet, relatively speaking big. And I have crammed so much stuff into this bottom that now it's falling out because I opened it, and it'll all fall out now. But the first thing that I suggest is to put a circle up, just like when you do ritual, so that you call quarters, that you put up a protective circle. And it's also to protect you from what's out there, but it's also to keep your energies contained. Frequently, I've been to places where people have done ritual and they haven't cleaned up after themselves. So there's a lot of like random energy kind of floating around, and it feels kind of weird. So, but if you put a circle up, you contain your own stuff. So it's just being tidy. It's like not littering. It's like throwing your trash in the trash can, right? You just keep it in your circle. So I have the cutest, I'm so glad I got this. I have the cutest little incense burner. And, or I say I do, it's in here somewhere. But you can do a lot of different things. But here's what I suggest when you get started. When you get just about ready and you want to pull all this crap out. So I'm upstairs at my mother-in-law's house. I'm sure she has no idea that I'm doing witchcraft in her attic. So, but anyway, so I have this cute little tiny incense burner, and it's perfect for if you want to burn an incense cone. And incense cones are nice and they burn away and it's all gone. You just have powder or, little ash left. It's also perfect. So what I like to do when I get ready to get started is I get into my little drawer and I pull out sage. And sage is one of those things, if you have a bundle, they're great. But if you want to put in a little incense burner or a little cauldron, I didn't bring my cauldron because it's, I didn't bring my cauldron or my charger. So here I am in Memphis. But before I do anything, before I even put circle up, before I do anything, I burn sage to clean out. And so there's a couple of things about sage. Sage neutralizes, it nullifies everything. So whatever kind of energy, whatever kind of juju, whatever kind of is going on in a space, it cleans it out. And so if you start, you do your space in a clockwise fashion and just clean out whatever happens to be there. And so then, but we don't talk about what we want to do to bring in good stuff because, like I said, sage gets rid of everything. It neutralizes, nullifies your area, and everything is gone and clean. Now, there's two things that I like to burn. I love sweetgrass. Okay. Sweetgrass brings in good energy. And so it's no longer just, you have to admit, people, is that my job? But I'm doing it anyway, whether it's my job or not. While sage takes out everything and just cleans the space. And when you do it, you feel a difference. Okay. I know that what we do is, mojo and mumbo jumbo to a lot of people, but when you sage a space, it feels different. It changes the energy and it neutralizes it. So then if you take sweetgrass and you can start the whole thing and burn it like this and just burn your whole or you can break pieces of it off and put it in your cute little. I don't recommend an ashtray because here's why. I've seen an ashtray blow up with a charcoal, one of the charcoals that you burn things on. I've seen a really thick, heavy glass ashtray just explode. So please use things that are made for burning. I've got little baby cauldrons that I love. I love these little things because they're great to travel with. So you want to burn your sweetgrass. And then, so you're bringing in, this is inviting in positive energy to this area. And then last but not least, I love Palo Santo. Palo Santo is excellent. And I've got, Palo Santo is wonderful. A metal ashtray is a great idea, but you want it to be thick. A pie pan that you make pies in works great. A cookie sheet works great. When I'm burning candles and I want to keep them burning for a long time, I'll put them on a cookie sheet and I'll put them in my bathtub and I'll close my door because that way, no matter what happens, they're going to fall. If there's an earthquake, they're going to fall into the bathtub and nothing untoward is going to happen. So I found these little dandy, they're Palo Santo and they're matches and I just love them. So now Palo Santo is a wood. Try and find, whatever is harvested ethically. So Papa G, you just said that you use silver, like you collect silver trays.
Yeah, and
to burn
polish
on.
them and
Okay.
everything.
So silver does it tarnish? I mean, how are you?
Well, I found the way I have to clean them is
Mhm.
I have bought a God, the words the heat gun. I use a heat gun to get the all the candle wax off,
Wow. Okay.
and then I'll clean them with silver polish. And for the
All right.
next one,
That's pretty brilliant. I like that. So it gives you a better, a good working area. And I've got my little baby cauldron, and then I've got, my bigger cauldron.
and sometimes I'll set those on top of the tray just as a fire safety freak,
No, there's no reason to not to say that it's being a freak, because I have the little cauldrons, and mine has three little legs. I set it on the carpet, and it got so hot that it melted three little holes in the carpet. So.
Yeah, even for 7-day candles, I'll buy the bigger glass containers that normally you put the drop-in carved ones, and I'll fill
Right.
the bottom with that much sand. I'll put the 7-day inside that one. So if it breaks, then it breaks into another container.
Okay, good plan. I like that. Yeah, I put mine in the bathtub. I think I like your plan better. All right. So we've cleared our space. We've gotten rid of any negative entities, energies, whatever. We have used Sweetgrass and Palo Santo to bring in all the good energies. Now, maybe you live in a place where you can't do all that. And if that's true, I'm really, really sorry. But there's all kinds of, and I know that Aroma G carries that, all kinds of oils, all kinds of spray, where you can spray your area and have the same effect, which is like fire. We have to admit that we like fire. So it is as effective. If you've got a spray, it's as effective as if you did all the things that I've just done in order to clean your space and get it ready. So this says fiery wall protection oil. Okay. I use a lot. Yeah, I've got a shell. So you use a shell, an abalone shell on top of a metal tray. Okay. So we set off the fire alarms one time with a copper tray. Don't use copper.
I like sand and dirt. I tell people use dirt sometimes if you don't want to buy sand.
I love sand. I love sand. It's my favorite if I'm going to do it with what you're talking about to kind of ground it out. I like sand. But then I like the ocean. So maybe it just kind of reminds me. Do the Palo Santo matches burn like incense? They are hard to keep lit. Just like Palo Santo is hard to keep lit. So I bought these just to see what I thought about them. And I like having this little box of Palo Santo to carry around. I recommend that you take a charcoal. These charcoals are made specifically to burn incense on. Do not burn on charcoal that you cook your steak with, because you'll kill yourself. All right, so they're little and round, and they have an indentation in the middle. They're, I don't know, $3 or $4. Papa G can tell you because he's got them in his store. And they burn about 45 minutes. And so when you get ready, I'm not going to burn this because I don't want to waste my charcoal, but lighter or a match, and you just start around the edge, and you just light it from where your fingers are, and it will start to sparkle. So it'll be like little red sparkles. Before it gets to your fingers, put it down on your burn proof, whatever you're using. And these are good if you put this on a bed of sand as well. And so when it gets really hot, and it'll have a cherry like a cigarette, that's when you put your herbs or whatever on it, and you can put sage on it, and then you can put your sweetgrass on it, and then you can put your Palo Santo. I also like to take a knife, and where's my knife? It's downstairs in the other room, and shave off just slivers of it to put on the charcoal. I found some bamboo charcoal online a few years ago. They burn without the smell you get from the regular charcoal. That's good to know. I've never seen that. Okay. So the smell burns off after a few minutes, so it doesn't like linger, but you have to wait till it's got a good there's good red cherry of fire before you start to dump herbs on it, or because a lot of times you will, you'll put out the charcoal and then that's the end of that. I also highly recommend either charcoal or any kind of incense, like my cute little cones, and I put them in a Ziploc and squoze all the air out of it, because charcoal absorbs air, moisture out of the air, and they'll get moist and then they will not burn. Now, I've also been told, I haven't tried it, that you can reactivate them by putting them on a cookie sheet and putting them in the oven at like 250 for however long, but really they're like $3 or $4. Just go buy some more and try and keep up with them. So that is where that's where I would start before I ever take out all my accoutrement for doing a spell. So whatever, I'm gonna burn, I'm gonna set circle, I'm gonna call the quarters, I'm gonna ask the guardians to protect me in case I inadvertently invite something unbeknownst to me that might, just want to suck my energy. So all of that's a whole lot of stuff to do, and I understand that before you get started, but I highly recommend that you do all these things so that you don't attract anything negative, so that you got my little candle. It's a fancy little candle holder, but it fits in my box. So if you want, oh, sorry, I didn't get to see that. Trish and John, you just posted something if you want to check it out, and it was so fast that I didn't get to see what you just said. If you want to unmute and say things or ask questions, please do. But anyway, it's nice, it's nice to have an altar, a travel altar. But when you go somewhere, especially when you're traveling, which I've been doing a whole lot of that insanity in the last month, you don't have that space, your sacred space, like you have at home, where everything is already set up, where your guardians are already called, where your quarters are already set. You don't have that, so you have to do it every time. And so but I'm going to say, please do it at your house. You need to reinforce your wards. You need to make sure that your guardians are there, and don't just, don't just go off half cocked, but actually do what you need to do in order to make things happen. And if you've got, specific rocks like fairy quartz, what else have I got in here? Ooh, selenite. Selenite is good to put everywhere because it's kind of self-cleaning. So you can put rocks around, it'll help clean your rocks. But before you start, and you just pick up a book, my book, anybody else's book, and just start doing magic, you need to know what you're doing, that this is not pretend, this is not make-believe, this is not playtime, this is the real deal. And despite all the baby witches and all the TikTokers and all the rest of it that we are kind of inundated with right now, and witchiness has become cool, it's become chic, and God knows we're trending. But you need to know that you are calling on entities that exist, that you are pulling in energy that is real, that you are putting your wishes out into the universe. And before you do any of that, you need to start with protection, make sure I'm doing the right thing, lay it all out. We don't just, I've seen so many spells done that somebody got off the internet, which is always really fun. And then you have to help them figure out how to undo whatever kind of, mess that they've made. And one time when I used to be in Berry Hill, and Berry Hill in Nashville is full of dead people and storage units. And there's a huge, thank you for sharing the link. Good Lord, I need to put my glasses on to be able to read that. Okay. Because there's a cemetery, a lot of people think that that's a great place to do magic. I think that's a less than optimal place to do magic, but each to his own. So the Berry Hill cops were always bringing me stuff that they had found in the graveyard that somebody had left and set a spell in motion, and that they went in and picked up everything and brought it to me and to ask me what it was and what I thought they were doing. And it was always to me, it always felt like kids, teenagers, whatever. And I said, probably they got it off the internet and they think this is a great idea. And so it's not a great idea. You're dealing with forces to be reckoned with. It's not just playtime or make believe. It's not TV. It's not movies. This is the real deal. So if you are working on, let's say you really need money, okay? You need to set it up so that the deities and the entities know that you are serious. So you put all your protections up. And I like to put a lot of things in my spells. I like to put, there they are. I like to put he's upside down. But I like to put tarot cards. I like candles. I like oils. I like incense. I love rocks, obviously. And if I'm going to do a money spell, I'm going to lay money out. I'm going to lay out the biggest denomination of dollar that I have. I'm going to lay out other dollars. I'm going to lay out coins. I'm going to write myself a check. I have a check written from the Bank of Universal Happiness for $1 million. I'll put that out there, right? Because a lot of what I would be doing is sympathetic magic. This is what I need. I need all this money to come to me. So I'll put it out there. And so I will use all those different kind of, I like a busy spell. I can do a really quick spell too. But if I'm going to sit and do a spell for something specific, we'll say money, because most of us need more of that. I'm going to put a whole lot of money energy into it. I'm going to put a deposit slip and make it out to myself. I'm going to put my $1 million check from the Universal Bank of Happiness. I'm going to put coins and folding money so that I'm showing the universe, this is what I want. This is what I need. So it's kind of sympathetic magic. But I also will make sure that I always, again, Papa G is worried about fire. I worry about karma. So I always have the tagline. I ask this in the highest good of all concerned and harm to none. So if I do a money spell, I don't want my great Aunt Harriet to drop dead and leave me her money. That would be terrible. I would feel bad about that. And you should feel bad about that. So you put a tagline on it, highest good of all concerned, harm to none. Whatever spell you're doing, whether it's a money spell, whether it's a spell for house, whether it's a spell for whatever it is, doesn't matter. I highly recommend letting Terry Bogard into the ring. Hang on a minute. All right. Hey, Terry. I highly recommend that tagline when you do any kind of spell work. Even if you're going to do, and I don't do a lot of baneful magic. I'm a little more, I don't know, conservative, I guess, or maybe I don't know, maybe I'm whatever. But even when you're doing something to turn something back on somebody, or someone's harmed you, someone's done you an ill turn, make sure that you protect yourself. Do your research before you start spell work? Yes, I always do. And I've done a lot of research because I've been doing spells for about 30 years. But if I'm going to do something new, especially, I'm going to go look and see what I need, what the components are, what other people have recommended, other spells that are out there on the internet, although I'm careful about that. So yeah, I research it. I want to know what kind of stones do I need? What kind of candles, what colors of candles do I need? What kind of incense should I burn in order to help facilitate this? Because the thing is, when you do spells, a lot of bells and whistles, with every piece, with every component, with every stone, as you do a spell, that was you in general. I know you do your research, Tish. Okay. But with every piece of business, you're telling your subconscious and the universe, here is what I'm putting in motion. So Lucia Jameson just asked a question. Do you research before you do your spells? I'd love to see the answers to that from people. Do you research? Where do you get your spell information? Do you buy spell kits from Papa G? Do you go on the internet? Do you buy my book? Where, do you buy Dorothy Morrison's book. I mean, there's a lot of books on spells, and they're all different. Where do you get your information? Where do other people get their information? Do you call your friend? Do you go and talk to somebody like me or Papa G? Or how do you figure out what you want to do? TikTok. Okay. If you are getting your spell information from TikTok, I beg you. The spell comes from knowing yourself in the aftermath of intense shadow work. There you go. We are watching from our store in Fort Campbell. I don't know if you've covered this or not, as we have what? I can't see the rest. As we
Customer.
have, I wish I could do, we're just, I don't know if I want to say that, but we're hearing more and more about doing shadow work. And shadow work, while it sounds a little daunting, and it kind of is, because we're going within, we're looking at ourselves, we are trying to ascertain where our blocks are, where our issues are, what our problems are. So it can be intense, and it can be not always pleasant. Therapy is not always pleasant, but doing intense shadow work, yes, and I agree with that. That helps you in your spell work, but it also helps you, I feel like, to know what works, and it's not always what works for everybody else. It's what works for you. You know, maybe you're doing a spell for money, and it says you should use adventuring, or you should use whatever, greenstones, but you really feel like you want to use rose quartz. You want to put that love energy into it. You know what? Please do that. That's what works. It was what works for you. You know, spells and spell books and all the rest of it are guidelines to start you on your path of doing spells. And there are people who don't do spells, or who just do, you know, worship of deities. They're kind of rare, but I have met some of those pagans. But for the most part, most of us are doing, I think writing a petition of specific intention is important. Like you said, with manifestation. I agree. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I just I wanted to make a point that I very, very rarely use spells. I have a Book of Shadows, but it only has 2 spells in it, one of which I only used once and kind of refused to use again, at least for a while, and don't see myself using again because it had unforeseen consequences that ended up not being so great.
Yeah.
But the only spell I will never not use when the opportunity arises is my curse breaking spell. But I am one of those rare ones that typically I don't really use spell work.
So let's talk about the spell that had inadvertent. So most spells do have consequences, and some of them are unforeseen and some of them are unpleasant. So, and that's why the tagline, in the highest good of all concern with harm to none, I put this in motion. So I always put a tagline on it. And yeah, you need to look, there's, you know, it's going to be, the spell might work, the spell might fizzle, or, you know, you might manifest some kind of swamp demon in your backyard. You have to be specific, right? I hope you didn't manifest a swamp.
No, thankfully, no.
Thankfully, that's good. I'm glad to hear that. That's a plus.
So the unforeseen consequence, I think, came because I felt like the relationship was right.
Okay.
And I didn't really expect it to affect the other person. I was trying to have it affect me, and basically it was kind of dumb in retrospect, because I was initially more trying to get around the necessary steps to overcome my own walls.
Okay.
Tried to basically take a shortcut, and it ended up not just affecting me and kind of working on my end, but also affecting the other person in a way that I was not intending nor expecting.
Right.
I mean, I even went as far as trying to make sure all the astrological things were lined up. It wasn't void, of course. And I'm not kidding though. I felt and like not like saw, but with my third eye could see this molten kind of gold ball of energy between my hands as I was doing this.
Okay.
And so I know it worked. It just maybe it was just overpowered to a point, or I don't know exactly how it went wrong, but it kind of made me put that spell to the side lines.
Do you feel like you were trying to influence the other person as well as your own self?
Honestly, no.
Okay.
My ultimate intention was just for me to be able to overcome the fears and concerns that I thought were inhibiting me. And so that we could, be together and work out, and I wouldn't end up doing something to push him away in a way, etc. But I mean, perhaps inadvertently it did, because it was kind of partly about us, hopefully coming together in a union, and not even in a sexual way. It had absolutely nothing to do with that. It was actually a rare situation where neither of us really wanted that until unless things progressed to a point. But it wasn't something either of us were looking for at that time. And in the end, I actually lost him as a friend altogether. And it really took a toll on me. Because he was somebody that was very, very much a big supporter and a very good friend for a long time. And we even went like a full year without talking. And then I was in a bad spot and I called him up. And it just picked up where it left off, like nothing had happened, like no time had passed. And he had told me prior, before we got back in touch, except on several occasions, doesn't matter how long it's been, doesn't matter what time it is, call me, I will be there for you. And he was a very good friend. And I feel like it was because of that spell that somehow I messed it up in a way that cost me that friendship. So
what'd you learn from that, Rachel?
No more spells about relationships at all.
Okay. All right. Well, and maybe that's a good lesson, but also that maybe you didn't look at all the ramifications. You were real focused on making this be okay, and where y'all could come together and you could work your things out. And maybe you didn't look at the ramifications of what might happen. And so we have to be forward thinking when we do spells. Where is this going to go? How do we extrapolate out to see where this is going to go, to make sure that something like this doesn't happen? Because it's a shame that you lost a really good friend. All right. Reverend Corey, Compassion League, raised hand, please. Unmute. Let me unmute you. Can I? Nope. Hang on a minute.
There I am.
There
Okay.
you are. Okay.
Hey, I wanted to know what your thoughts were about cord cutting, and return to senders. Like if you feel like somebody has put something really bad out towards you, like if you're under a psychic attack, for instance.
Okay.
Because I know that happens to, it's happened to me in my past. And I've learned how to overcome those things. But I just want to know what your thoughts were on that without imposing any harm.
Okay. And I have to agree with Papa G for just a second, because he said that's why some spells are really long, to make sure that all their bases are covered. So cord cutting, if it's someone that so for the most part, a lot of people think that there's a curse on them, or there's a hex on them, or somebody's done a spell on them. And my first question is always, who have you pissed off? Who hates you enough to do magic against you? And most of the time, honest to God, 99% of the time, people
You're right.
say,
I just want to say that.
okay. People say, well, I don't know. Okay, well, if you don't know, then it's not a spell. You just need to kind of, I don't know, clean up your own karma. But if I were going to do a card cutting with someone that I knew had done magic against me, wow, those seem like almost ridiculous words to say, but I would start out with 2 candles. And I really like figure candles, although my son said figure candles are for people who don't have any imagination. He could be right. But 2 figure candles, if the person was male, of course, male, and female if it was female, because it helps me to get my mindset locked down.
Mhm.
And so I would take those 2 candles and I would probably do black and white.
Mhm.
And I would take a red cord or a thread. Thread is great. And I would wind it around those 2 figure candles. Okay.
Yeah.
And so I would also burn another white candle to the side for just to kind of make sure that everything was cool. I would put those 2 figure candles. I would do 2 things. Exactly. Thank you, Papa G. Can everybody read what we're all saying? Yeah, if you live in constant fear of somebody doing stuff against you, then, bless your heart, because that's, it's not always, it's really not. A lot
And
of people,
I'm not saying that anybody's doing this to me in
No,
the
no, no.
present time. This
No,
is lessons learned from the past, but I just want to know
Right.
what your thoughts were.
So my thoughts are is that I would do that. I would light that candle, and I would burn, and as it burns, as those candles burn, all the cords between you burn, and it disrupts the connection that you have.
Gotcha.
So that's one thing I would do. The other thing I would do and have done is I would put a candle, I'd put the person's name, I would put it on a mirror, and I would send back everything they had sent to me. It's a little more aggressive to just, send it back out into the universe. So those are my thoughts. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, it did. I mean, there are just some things that are overt and obvious,
Yes.
and people are just sometimes just downright mean.
And stupid.
And I do know that keeping your blinders on and remaining focused on your own manifestations and your own success is your ultimate revenge. But in the same regard, I think most of us want balance on the scales with justice.
Exactly. I would
And-
also use a justice card out of the tarot deck if I was going to do that spell.
Okay.
So I not directed at speaker at all, but some people do think that everything bad is a spell. I agree. And I've seen that, you've seen that, where there's always this is going on, I'm under attack. Well, okay. And that's why I always ask the question, who have you pissed off enough to do magic against you?
And sometimes it's just shitty decisions.
Yeah, sometimes, as with so much in life, sometimes.
Or a chain of bad choices.
Exactly. That brings you to that, or letting in people that you shouldn't, that are just not good for you. It doesn't have to be magical. It can be extremely mundane. But if indeed I thought, or I knew, or I believed, or intuitively I got information that someone had done something against me, that's where I would start. I would start with the 2 candles with the red cord, and I would burn that cord at all the connections, because everybody that we deal with, whether we deal with them magically or not, everybody that we deal with there's a connection. There's that energetic connection to everything and everyone. And so therefore, if it's someone who has done me wrong, I don't want there to be a connection anymore. I want to burn that connection up. So those are the 2 things I would do. There's a much longer spell. I haven't put it in a book yet, but I will. It'll probably go in the next thing that I write. But it's a 9-day spell. It's intense. I don't recommend doing it unless you really want if there's any karmic backlash on you, you have to accept it. But unless you really want to cut somebody loose, and I mean cut them loose where they don't exist in your world, I don't recommend doing it. But it's involved. But usually the 2 candles or a black candle on a mirror will take care of whatever your problems are for the most part.
Right.
Okay. I like to do magic about bringing stuff, good stuff, money, good health. Yeah, comfort and joy, all that kind of stuff. That's what I like. But also protection. I do protection every morning when I wake up for myself and all of my children and grandchildren. I put all of them in a bubble of light, ask that they are surrounded and that they are safe. So that's, I don't even light a candle for that. I just, you don't need all the accoutrements. We like the accoutrements. It does help you get your subconscious in the right place. Now we're going to do magic. You don't
I-
need all that. Go ahead, Rachel.
I'm so sorry. I don't mean to. I guess I'm concerned